The 2018 Vespa Sei Giorni 300. While it's fairly safe to say that all Vespa products enjoy a pedigree with an established line of succession and deep historical roots, the limited edition Sei Giorni takes it a step further with a very narrow and specific historical reference as its design inspiration. Vespa calls it the most powerful and technologically advanced unit it has ever produced, with 278cc mill that delivers 20-plus ponies and boasts over 16 pounds of grunt. Uncommon styling touches include a curiously low headlight and unusual little windscreen to go with a not-oft-seen body style that touches on the historical and takes even mundane components up a notch so that they too become special. Continue reading for my review of the Vespa Sei Giorni 300. Design. Though the front turn signals are recessed nicely into the front of the legguard, I expect the US version to come with some bar mount, hangy-downy blinkers to meet our lighting regulations. In order to understand the design, you must first understand the history behind it. You see, way back in 1951, Piaggio built a scooter to take on proper off-road bikes in the Sei Giorni Internazionale di Varese that was widely regarded as one of the toughest in the world. Not only did the Vespa finish the race, but the Squadra Course entry took the rest of the field to school in much the same way Mayweather just handled McGregor. In order to commemorate this momentous occasion, the factory built its Sport Sei Giorni that was characterized by its course-inspired features and racing livery. Fast forward to 2017 and the all-new Vespa GTS Sei Giorni, second of its name. The tie-ins start immediately with the faro basso, low-light headlamp that rides on the front fender rather than up on the bars or fairing as usual. The naked handlebar shuns the usual fairing to save weight just as it did on the original, and that lends something of a utilitarian look to the ride. Though the front turn signals are recessed nicely into the front of the legguard, I expect the US version to come with some bar mount, hangy-downy blinkers to meet our lighting regulations. That's a shame, cause the stock lights are pretty fly if you ask me. Steel sheet metal forms the entirety of the body panels for strength and sturdiness. At the back side of the legguard we find the plate with the unique number of the unit, a helmet ring and large, locking glove compartment ahead of a shallow tunnel that interrupts the step-through but includes a flat on the top that should still be able to be used for some tween-feet storage. The seat is interesting in that the rider area is well developed, but the pillion tapers off to the rear kind of like a Mustang seat so that it has a somewhat solo look while retaining some passenger comfort. Flip-out foot pegs and chrome JC handles complete the passenger's hardware. Out back, a large taillight dominates the rear with molded-in blinkers and a plate holder that hangs down to obscure the mudguard. Finally, a green paint job makes the color connection. Thankfully it's more palatable than the original, with the number 6 painted on in lieu of a racing number to make that final bond to the historical influences. Chassis. Unsurprising is the aircraft landing gear type front suspension that uses a link and coil over shock to buoy the front end and the pair of preload adjustable shocks that tame the motion of the swing-mount drivetrain. As one might expect from Vespa, the Sei Giorni relies on a stressed skin monocoque assembly to hold itself up, rather than using the simpler under-frame method, and it uses welded reinforcement members to further stiffen the assembly. Equally unsurprising is the aircraft landing gear type front suspension that uses a link and coil over shock to buoy the front end and the pair of preload adjustable shocks that tame the motion of the swing-mount drivetrain. Too bad Vespa didn't get the memo that donut tires are out, and it's okay to put 16-inch hoops on a scooter, but here we are with a pair of rinky-dink 12-inch tires. One thing the factory definitely got right is the brakes. The old rear drum hit the history books in favor of 220mm hydraulic discs fore and aft with ABS protection all the way round. Drivetrain. The power numbers point to a thrilling ride with enough grunt and ponies to hurl this racing tribute down the road with some authority. The beating heart comes mated with the transmission and rear wheel in a stressed case arrangement that replaces the swing arm in class-typical fashion. A 278cc thumper runs with a 75mm bore and 63mm stroke with a 4-valve head that really opens up the combustion chamber to let it breathe. Electronic fuel injection skips the throttle body injection for some direct port injection action instead, and electronic ignition manages the spark with a variable advance feature for engine management that goes far beyond the old standard. Liquid-cooled, the jacketed engine effectively vents waste heat while keeping the audible mechanical thrashing noises to a minimum. As usual, a continuously variable transmission automatically handles the ratios for effortless twist-and-go operation, and a centrifugal dry clutch couples engine to tranny for clutch lever-free riding. The power numbers point to a thrilling ride with a total of 21.2 horsepower at 7,750 revolutions per minute and 16.2 pound-feet of torque at 5 grand, plenty to hurl this racing tribute down the road with some authority. Pricing. Considering it's a Vespa, MSRP is about what you'd expect for a limited edition tribute scooter. You can own a piece of sort of history for $7,699, and you can get it in any color you want as long as you want matte verde green. Of course, the accessory catalog gives you plenty of opportunities to inflate that with front and rear luggage racks, a perimeter guard kit or a dual-action mechanical, electronic anti-theft system. Competitors. Name power and historical interest will draw some to the Sei Giorni, but I think folks up against a budget or just being pragmatic may look towards something like the Kymco People first. It's tough to find an apple to go with such a specific tribute piece, so I had to abandon aesthetics as part of my criteria and look for something else with GT credentials. Suddenly, it seems like I have 100 possibilities. Since Italy is already well represented here, I took a look at KYMCO's lineup and the People GT300i stood out as a likely candidate. The People runs with a decidedly contemporary layout that seeks to deliver more of a true motorcycle-like experience through the use of hydraulically damped telescopic forks and 16-inch wheels. They may not look very scooterish, but the improved handling makes that a worthwhile trade-off. Beyond that, the People sports a similar front turn signal arrangement in its small upper legguard area, but the modern handlebar fairing and stylish flyscreen take the People in a much different direction than the Sei Giorni. Kymco runs with a full step-through and a modern beveled seat, and while the top case seems like it would give you more in the way of storage, its effectiveness is sapped by the next to useless underseat storage. Oh, but it's lighted. Mechanically, the hydraulic brakes are similar enough, but only Vespa has ABS protection available. The power plants are likewise similar. Kymco drives the People with a water-cooled, 298.9 cc mill that sports electronic fuel injection and quad-valve heads just like the Vespa. A CVT transmission is another constant across the board along with the ubiquitous swing-drive unit, but amazingly, Kymco claims a total of 29.5 horsepower and 22 pound-feet of torque versus only 21.2, 16.2 on the Vespa. Deal with it. I'm sure nobody is shocked that the People costs less than the Sei, to the tune of $4,899 against $7,699. Name power and historical interest will draw some to the Sei Giorni, but I think folks up against a budget or just being pragmatic may look towards something like the Kymco People first. He said. My husband and fellow motorcycle rider, TJ Hinton, says, cool little scoot. I like that it has a specific story, and the fact that it's a numbered run should appeal to many. The racing heritage is an interesting point as well, but I don't think that's going to move it into the millennials market quite like the looks will. Nicely done, folks. She said. To save some of the readers from hitting the translator, Sei Giorni means 6 days and commemorates the original 6 days Vespa Sport that won 9 gold medals at the International 6 Days of Varese in 1951. This also explains the 6 on the number plate. I like the low-mounted headlamp. It gives the scooter an altogether different look from the norm. So yeah, historical tribute, nice-looking ride and a 300i engine to take you there. Specifications. References. See our review of the Kymco People GT300i.
If you liked this video, please share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.